Hello, welcome back. Today we're gonna listen to Mr. Jaggi Vasudev Sadhguru guys' uh, knowledge of astronomy, astrophysics, lunar eclipse, and food science, and some biochemistry. So I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. L- let's go, Mr. Sadhguru. Let's go.
To you.
Okay.
So here, the moon is on fast forward today. All the 28 days, all the 28 phases of the moon you see right here. Everything that happens in a month, in a subtle way, is happening right here. When such a fast forward is happening, many things are changing. One thing that you will notice is that the food, when
Food. Anyway, so before I explain what he got it wrong, let me start with uh, the basic physics or astronomy or physics behind lunar eclipses. So, and he right away he got it wrong. So before him explaining the wrong physics, let me explain the right physics. So here, this is my earth hand, this is earth, and earth rotates itself, and sun is somewhere up there bright, and the earth goes around the sun, okay? And earth rotates itself and goes around the sun. So, and earth rotate itself for the one rotation is 1 day, and when earth goes around, one revolution is 1 year. So simple, right? Okay, and here is my moon, so that's my moon hand. So, and moon itself rotates and it goes around the earth. So it takes 28 days for moon to go around and complete one full rotation. So that's we approximate into a month. So here earth rotates itself and moon goes around. But the phases of the moon you see is not the same phase you see during lunar eclipse. So when moon rotates itself, it goes around, but when it's here, the you don't see the full moon phase, only different half phase. Here there's no moon you see. The reason is the moon casts its own shadow on it itself. So from earth, you're looking at the moon, you see only half of the moon because the other half is moon's own shadow. It's the same thing when it goes around, but when moon is here, the moon's shadow is behind, but your earth here, from the earth you're looking, you see the full side here, so you don't see a moon shadow. So the different phases of moon is the moon's shadow itself. But when during lunar eclipse, here moon, it goes into the earth's shadow and comes out. So here moon, and it enters the earth's shadow and comes out. So that's a lunar eclipse. So that's totally different than moon going around and cast the shadow on itself. So the moon phase's shadow is totally different than moon entering in the shadow of earth. So if you're still confused with my hand gesture and all this, let me show the picture and see if it helps. So let me shrink myself, and here this is a normal lunar and solar eclipse picture you might have seen, or even you learned from your school or wherever you learned first time. So here in the lunar eclipse, there's the sun up there, on the sun up there at the bright side, and earth is in the middle, and here you have a moon. So the one full rotation of the moon is, it takes 28 days. So in one day, Earth, in one day, Earth rotates itself, and Moon also moving at the same time. So it takes Moon for 28 days to go around Earth. That's a 360 degree. So in one day, it's around like 12 to 12 and a half degree, 12.8 degree. Uh, when Moon is when the Earth is between Sun and Moon, and Earth enters the shadow, you'll come out. You'll enter and come out, because in one day, yeah, Moon travels more than 12.8 degree. So, since Moon, the Earth cast less than 12.8 degree, that's why Moon enters and exits the Earth's shadow. So that's what lunar eclipse is. And the reason you always see one side of the Moon is because Moon is in a one-to-one synchronous orbit with Earth. So what that means is you have a face of Moon. It faces Earth. When it goes this side, it still faces here, and it rotates itself. And here it goes around, it rotates itself, and comes here, it rotates. So that's a one-to-one synchronous orbit. So when Moon goes around, it rotates itself, and you always see one side. That's why you don't see the other side of Moon. So this is a normal picture you see. So, and then you may ask, why don't we see lunar eclipse every month? Because every month Moon's supposed to enter the shadow of Earth, right? The reason you don't see is because the Moon is tilted. Its Moon is not just go on the same plane as the Earth and Sun is in. So the reason it's tilted. So the Moon is going like this. So they're tilted. And let me see if yeah, so you have a sun, Earth and Sun going on one plane, but the Moon is in different plane. So that's why you don't always see the lunar eclipse every month. So when do you see a lunar eclipse? See here. So there are only 2 times you would have a chance to see a lunar eclipse. So here in this picture, on the left side, and you see Moon is going on a tilted plane. So when Moon is away from Earth, so when Earth is between Moon and Sun, it's still not in the shadow. When Moon comes in between Earth and Sun, it's the Moon's shadow is not on Earth. That's not a solar eclipse. So when the Moon and Earth is on the right side, it's the same thing. So the shadow, the Moon's does not enter and exit Earth's shadow. So the only time Moon enter and exit shadow is when during these 2 nodes. So that's the period. Also, you may have here. It's spring equinox and autumn equinox, or fall equinox. So between the time like March and September, that's the time you'll see the sun comes just right over the equator. And so but then you may ask, would you see the lunar eclipse every 6 months? Why don't we see every 6 months and every year? The reason is that Moon not necessarily opposite when it's on these 2 nodes or during this equinox. It could be up in the plan or down in the plan, not necessarily opposite of the Earth and Sun. And also another thing is here it's exaggerated. So the Moon orbits also rotates, wobbles. So over every 8th year. Here it's kind of like a ecliptic. Moon orbit is close to circular, but not exactly circular. It's a little bit ecliptic. Here it's very exaggerated. So and that also makes it not makes the moon not always comes under the Earth's shadow at the same time every year. So every 8 years, this eclipse it changes. So that's the reason the lunar eclipse is not comes at every certain period of year and month. So, but it's still trackable based on observation in Newton's law of motion and gravity. You can still predict accurately the lunar eclipse. But guys like Jaggi, he can't predict it. He doesn't know anything about physics or Newton's law. He's just some mumbo jumbo yogi. So that's a physics, how lunar eclipse works. And he says that you see all the different phases of moon during lunar eclipse. No, you don't see it. You don't see the all phases. So you only see moon entering and entering the Earth's shadow. In all different phases during a month, that's a moon's own shadow. Okay, now moving on to food science. Let's see what he has to talk about food. Okay, let's go on, Mr. Jaggi.
When I say food, don't hang your tongue out.
Food.
No. When I say food, I mean your body. Food means your body. Food is your body in making, isn't it? Food is your body. So when I say food, the food, particularly the cooked food, will go through the phases of its deterioration much, much more rapidly in a subtle way than it does on a normal day. We thought we'll do a little experiment. Do we have food?
Wait. So what basically he's saying is, so moon goes into the shadow of Earth and comes out. So that's equivalent to moon goes around Earth in 28 days. So different phases of it goes through different phases. So they are same. So basically he's saying as the time goes faster, and that when moon enters and exits at shadow. No, not. It's the same time. All you see different phases is because moon enters and exits out of Earth, but the other phases are moon's own shadow. So there's no fast forwarding or time moves faster in the time. No, nothing. It's just like you in the morning, sun rises, you standing and watching sun. Someone behind you enter your shadow and comes out. That's all it is. Earth enters, moon enters at shadow and comes out. There's no fast forward of time. There's no 28 days shrinking into 2 hours. There's nothing like that happens. And talking about food, it's not deteriorating, it's putrefaction. So when you leave food outside, what happens is it's chemically disintegrates, also biologically. So when you leave food outside, the oxygen and water get into the oxygen in the air, and also water, moisture in the air get into the food. And also there's bacteria and fungus, it's all there, tiny amount in the air, and it slowly get into the food, and those bacteria and fungus eats away the food and produce chemicals, and some of them are toxin. So that's why if you eat those, then you'll get sick when toxins and bacteria enters it. But for that to happen, you have to leave the food for a longer time. But if you leave the food in cold places like fridge or in a South Pole or North Pole, there's not much bacteria in those cold climate. But if you leave it in the equator or tropics, it's warm all the time throughout the year, then there's a lot of bacteria in the air, then it putrefies faster. So that's why if you leave food in tropics, it may take just 1 day, then it'll putrefy, then turn into toxin. But that's not fast forwarded when moon enters the Earth's shadow. It's just a shadow. It's just like someone sitting inside the room during a daytime. It's a shadow, it's just shadow. When during lunar eclipse, the biological process and chemical, nothing is expedited, nothing goes faster. Still same bacteria and still same chemical reaction. Nothing goes at higher fast rate. Nothing happens. So what he's saying is totally lie. He's just made that up.
We're going to bring some food, don't hang your tongues out. This is not for eating. This is just to show you how quickly it's going bad, right here as we sit. So, food. This is not just happening to the food, this is happening to your body, this is happening to the whole world in a certain way. If there is food in your body, it would happen to you much more. That is, in 2 hours' time, your energies will age by approximately 28 days.
Oh my gosh. Your energy will age. What's energy? It's just a meaningless word they use, these yogi guys use. Energy exists, energy. Energy doesn't age. Energy transforms from one form to another. It doesn't age. So your body, human age, what do you mean age? So your body cells grow and divide, and over time the programming from the DNA stops. That's what aging essentially is. And he's saying during lunar eclipse, the 28 days goes into that period of 2 hours. So does that mean, like, if there's a lunar eclipse comes every year, then you have to deduct 1 month in your age? Why don't anyone thought of that? So in your lifetime, in 10 years, there's a 10 lunar eclipse. Say 12 years, there's a 12 lunar eclipse, then at the end of 12 years, then you are 1 year older? Why don't people think of that? So say you born and 12 years gone past, then during the 12 years, somehow you see in 12 lunar eclipse, then at the end of 12 years, now you are not 12 years old, 13 years old. It's just absurd. He made that up. Stupid.
That means 27 days less of lifespan could happen to you energy-wise in a subtle way. We'll keep watching this as it goes by.
So here, this fake Rudraksha experiment, it's totally fake, nothing real. So Rudraksha, the chain, the seed chain, nut, Rudraksha nut chain. So what he's doing is he's just hanging above the foot and say it moves. So the word tasmai, it means in Sanskrit, it's a quality, it's character, it's kind of describing. There are basically the three basic type of character you can assign to human or anything in general. Sattva and Rajasa and Tasmic. Basically what it means, Sattva means pure, and Rajasa means motion, chaotic, energetic, whatever you can assign. And tamasic or tamasic means impure. So Sattva is pure, tamasic impure. Basically it's saying the food usually it takes a long day, a few days, 3 days or 28 days to putrefy and go bad. But during lunar eclipse, it goes bad within 2 hours because it turns from sattva to tamasic, because time travels fast and the time goes fast. It's totally nonsense.
So right now it's still okay. You watch this in the next 1.5 hours. You will see things will change about this food as we sit here, okay? We will leave it now, it'll mature.
Food matures. Mature is the anthropomorphic concept. Like you learn more, and then you get a experience, then you mature. Or yeah, puppy or a baby grows, then you mature. So what food turn into like toxic or putrefaction is means mature. It's just randomly throwing words, like meaningless words. Mature, food matures. Huh.
So, the reason why so many things are taken care of on a full lunar eclipse day is because you're passing 28 days in 2 hours' time, approximately 2 hours' time.
No, you're not passing 28 days in 2 hours' time. That's not happening. Just because you see a moon without no shadow and it goes under the earth side and comes out, that looks same like moon goes around the earth and you see all the different phases, doesn't mean same thing. No, the moon enters the side of earth and comes out. That's a lunar eclipse. But during other normal month, moon has different phases because you're looking from the earth and from moon at different angles, and you see moon's own shadow cast on itself. So those two are totally different. So that doesn't mean 28 days to turn into 2 hours when earth goes into the, moon goes into the earth's shadow. It's totally nonsense, stupid. How can someone who has a fundamental knowledge of basic physics of moon orbits and lunar eclipse doesn't know these things? He's an idiot, or is he? He's just a con man? I don't know, but he's not that smart.
So today is a special day because of the alignment that happens. Certain things happen in the planet where anything anything that moves away from its natural condition will naturally deteriorate very, very fast on this day. We have not really conducted an experiment like this, but I can say it with fair amount of confidence that suppose we measure how quickly a dead body deteriorates, on this day it will be much faster than other days. Somebody should experiment on this. If anybody is working in a pathology laboratory, you should try this out and see. But I
First of all, pathology laboratory, they don't do postmortem in there. So in pathological laboratory, usually doctors and technicians and nurses, they take samples from the patients, tissue samples, blood samples, and they test for diseases and microbes. That's what pathological laboratory does. You dissect body, a dead body in a hospital or experimental room or in public mortuary. So that's where you do postmortem. So mortuary is not pathological laboratory. Yeah. He just see, this tells like he has no idea, but he seems to know, pretend to know stuff and to throw away the words.
can show this to you with reference to food, cooked food, because this is like a dead body. In the sense, it has moved away from its natural condition. How it was when it was in its natural condition, how it is now, it has moved away. We can still eat it, it still nourishes us, even though it's dead. It still nourishes us, but see how quiet it has become now?
See, again, it's so easy to dispute this guy. No, like he's saying, oh, food is like dead, then the particularly cooked food, so you putrefy it so quickly. Okay, you can easily test it. What about chicken? It's not live, right? That's not natural state. Dead chicken is dead chicken. And what about dead chicken? Is that a natural state? See, you have a rice and you machined off and chopped off. That's not natural state either. If life is life and living is the natural state and death means not natural state, then the uncooked rice is already, it's not in natural state. this this guy is just unbearable.
Not very enthusiastic. The first time we held it, it was clearly going this way. Right now it is simply… it is still not totally tamas, it is moving there, it's almost there. You will…
So even the food, it's get putrefied in few hours. That won't do anything to do with the nuts, the Rudraksa nuts and the chain. There's no physical connection whatsoever. So when he shows it rotates, it's all totally fake. He's a con man. There's no physical forces, the chemical changes that makes some physical force to gravitate or apply force to move this chain that he's hanging in his hand. He's just moving it on his own. He's just a total fake guy.
In another 15–20 minutes, if you check it, it will be going anti-clockwise. By the time you see a tiny piece of moon, you will see actively it will be going this way. So if this was in your stomach right now, 7 o'clock, if you had your dinner and you were sitting here, this would be happening within you. So I thought it's better it happens outside than within you because food will rot in the stomach. If we go by the physical sciences, if we examine you by the limitations of physical sciences, on one level, you're just heart, liver, kidney, lungs and whatever. We know today they're all replaceable. Are you replaceable? Let's see what's happening to the sambar.
What that has anything to do with purifying food or lunar eclipse? What makes you you is your consciousness, your mind, your personality. That's what we assign to a person. So if that comes from your brain, your nervous system, that's dead, then you don't call yourself as alive. We call that as body, a dead body. So what that has anything to do with food? It's just randomly throwing things.
You see this? Are you able to see this?
It's totally fake.
Actively going negative. See, we told you not to eat. Those people in Delhi who are eating today, what to do with them? This is going through a whole phase. What would happen in 28 days, in a subtle way, in an energy, on the level of energy, it is happening in these 2 hours' time, close to 3 hours of time. In these 3 hours, what happens in 28 days is happening right here. It is happening to your body right now as you sit here. You should be able to notice it, but you're not able to notice it, so the sambar is telling you what your brain is not able to tell you. In 3 hours' time, or less than… this is only… we are watching it only for less than 40 minutes. In an hour's time, what is nourishing food is turning into poison. That's what is happening right here. If you eat this, what will happen? Will I die? Unfortunately, you don't.
No, it's just dumb. You can put a food in a totally vacuum container. It's not gonna putrefy, it's not gonna go bad. You can take that food and put it on a moon where there's no water, there's no atmosphere, there's no life or micro fungus, anything there. The food gonna stay same. There's nothing gonna change. What an idiot! The reason food goes bad because of the atmosphere and the water and the microbes in the environment around the food. That's the reason. There's no time. The food goes bad just because the time goes faster. It's so stupid.
Why I'm saying unfortunately is, if if you eat this, if you immediately fall dead, they would have passed a law. On an eclipse day, nobody should eat the cooked food. But because it's subtle,
See, it's not subtle. You can, so okay, he says 28 days goes faster, the time goes faster within 2 or 3 hours, and it's subtle, so you don't notice it. What what about your watch clocks? Do you think that it's supposed to go faster, right? And even though it takes 2 hours to change, then why don't your clocks, your watches don't go faster? The, why don't anyone think of that every 12, if there's a 12 lunar eclipse in a 12 year, then you have to add one more year to your life? What about people on the other side, not on the shadow side, the dark side of the earth? Do they lose time? He's, he's just made things up. He has no basic understanding of physics and lunar orbits or astronomy or even food, basic chemistry or biochemistry. No knowledge of anything, but he just makes things up. The thing that bothers me most is because he uses some of those scientific jargon, scientific words, and he proclaims himself as a know-all. He knows science, he knows mysticism, and he's beyond everything. It's just a fraud. How could people believe this fraud? Why do you believe this fraud?